Hello, and welcome to the SQV conversation where we always honor the small, quiet voice inside. And today I'm very excited to share with you a friend who is a new friend, but we should have been friends long ago because we had 238 mutual LinkedIn people. And so here we are with the marvelous, amazing Beverly Lewis. Beverly, thank you for joining us on the SQV.
It is a delight to be here. And I have a still quiet voice, or a small quiet voice inside me, but my voice is not quiet otherwise. So this will go by quickly.
Well, we are excited to talk to you today. And you and I had kind of a strange convergence where you reached out. I think, did I reach out to you first on LinkedIn?
I think so. And when I looked at your profile, I'm like, how do we not know each other? Everybody, we really, I've never had anybody that I had that many contacts in common. And it's because we both lived on the Emerald Coast in the Panhandle, Panama City area for years.
Yeah, good people out there. I've had a lot of friends. That was where my career really took off as a lifestyle editor. And I sang in the choir and on the praise team, and I had my babies there. I didn't have them there, but I raised them there. And so I knew all the soccer mamas, and it's just hilarious how many different people intersected in our conversation last week when we finally connected. So I'm happy to meet you. And I know that all of our friends down in Panama City and in Destin and that area are going to love that we've become acquainted. So I'll make sure to tag all of the good stuff for them. But Beverly, just talk a little bit about, your career and your journey as a human, and then we'll talk a little bit about your challenges in the next little bit. So.
Okay. Well, what I do now and have been doing for decades is I'm a trainer, and I say I'm an executive trainer. I work with organizations and businesses, small and large, actually helping the individuals in those business get confident in their calling, clear in their communications, and consistent in their characters. So I promote myself as training on this topic of emotional intelligence, which you and I are very familiar with, the whole thing of EQ, and how now it's so exciting to me that I just tell people in simple language, I help people be more self-aware and more aware and effective in their communications with other people. And it is never boring.
So many people have so many different things that are driving them. And I'm not going to say they're issues or their problems, but they're opportunities for improvement many times for people that are a little bit more emotionally aware. And it's so fascinating. The human mind is just fascinating. I can't imagine being able to do that work for that long. And what a gift.
Well, thank you. It hasn't been a straight road by any means. In fact, I've been an entrepreneur since I got out of college. I went to the University of Florida. And when and had a major that has nothing to do with what I've done with my life, which is not uncommon in this day and time. Back then it was kind of uncommon, but I've always owned my own businesses with a plural. I rarely own just one at a time. So it's always interesting and exciting because, frankly, as a speaker and a trainer, it's kind of I'm either crazy busy or I have gaps. And that's why I've usually done more than one thing. I've always been into wellness and interested very much in holistic health. And that's what I think we're going to talk about today too, even though that's not what I train in. That's not what I teach on. I definitely have had a hand in that industry all of my adult life. And then a lot of personal stories that have developed through that.
Well, we all have our passions. And I think that, the adage of you'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do. And your testimony to that. And that's a beautiful thing because you've had a very fulfilled life, and not all of us can say that. So yay, and good job. I know there was some strategy behind that. So great job with that. What did you end up majoring in at UF?
I was in plant science, ornamental horticulture, to be specific, which I never worked in that field ever at all.
Well, it must have taught you some really neat things and exposed you to some really interesting people that were able to inspire you to do really cool things, because that's what happened. And I lived in Gainesville for a long time, and I know a lot of UF graduates, and I think that school is just the bee's knees. I think that they're producing some of the most innovative, most prepared individuals out of out of their programs. I've mentored a few of them, and I've interned with some of them, and like I've been very impressed with the UF grad. So hats off, go top, go Gators.
Well, thank you. It's interesting because of course, I lived in Tallahassee after I finished in Gainesville. We moved to Tallahassee, and all of my kids went to FSU. So, yeah, I'm a little bit split that way, but that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at all, because we, like you said, we have to find our passion. And I guess the one thing that I did learn is that in that major, it was not female oriented. It was mostly males in that major. And in fact, I worked in the department of my job that I had through my schooling was for a woman who was in that department. And this was way back, she had a Title IX lawsuit going because of the discrimination that she had faced. She was a doctor. And so that was kind of my first introduction to the, well, I had two introductions to the pain of company culture and how discomforting it can be. That was one of them, because she was kind of ostracized, and she was not a popular person in that department. And I worked for her. And then I also worked another job. I've always worked multiple things, even in college, but I worked at a job at a restaurant and became assistant manager in a restaurant.
Which restaurant? Is it still there?
It was called Ajo's, and I don't even know. Was it still there when you were there?
I don't think so, but my husband was there in the 90s. He'll remember the name of Ajo's. Is it Italian, or what did they do there?
It was
Nice.
Italian. And I knew that I shouldn't have probably said the name, because now I can't see anything else about it. But it was a lesson in one of the things I never wanted to do.
Yeah,
which
it's hard work.
I never wanted to be in the restaurant business, saw insights into management and managing employees and stuff like that, that I thought, wow, I do not want to do that. Mm-hmm. But that was the beginning of the journey, and there's a lot of water under the bridge in the meantime.
Yeah. I feel like I went to Gainesville's betterment. I've talked with a lot of people, especially in as using the Alligator newspaper magazine as an example, and speaking with a lot of grads. They do a really good job of enveloping the students into the community, and a lot of the people that live there. I don't know if you saw the podcast I did with Jerome, I think that's his name. Anyway, he was running for city council, and he was from Gainesville. He lived there and went to school there, and he said they just do a really good job of getting those kids in the mix of the community, and people feel like it's their home. It's not just their college town, and they really try to get private sector businesses to accept the interns, so they are in the mix and have jobs that are outside of the college, so they have a more of a community feel. And I think that it's I've been in other college towns, and UF does a really good job at making Gainesville like the support network for those students, to make them feel at home and make them feel like they're part of a community larger than UF. So I think that you probably experienced that too back then.
I did. I can say that I did. Because I had more than one major, but let's go past college. That was so long ago.
Oh, I know. But doesn't it just feel like that? It's just like so crazy. So I know that you and I, we've had really fun careers and done a lot of things, met a lot of neat people. So I wanted to talk to you a little about, because this is something that I dealt with. My mother's dealt with, my husband's dealing with it right now. This cancer journey, and what it's, I wrote a book about what it was like for me. And I think that we need to talk about things more, because a lot of women that are prostate cancer wives find themselves without a voice, without a confidant, because their husband is not who he used to be. And without friends, it's really hard to navigate that. So that's why I went on my 30-day journey. But I know that you dealt with it in some different ways. I'd like to just talk a little bit about what cancer has done for you and how that mind shift has occurred, because it always is a lesson.
It has, yes. And first of all, my husband experienced cancer diagnosis about 6 years ago. And for him, it was colorectal cancer. And so that was kind of my first, it's like, how do you talk about people's body parts that are very personal? Prostate, you mentioned that, colorectal, like it's like, I don't really want to think about that. But we not only had to think about it, we had to live with all of the ramifications of the treatment and all of that kind of stuff. Um, and and we also mentioned, as we talked about having this conversation on this podcast, is we discussed the fact that people ask me all the time about work-life balance. And I don't think there is such a thing as work-life balance. And that's why this conversation is appropriate too, because people are dealing with their whole lives when they come to work.
Yep.
Men are better at compartmentalizing, which I don't necessarily think is a healthy thing, but they're better at it than women, because
They might
we've
be
got
more productive, right? They might be more productive that day, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're more functional at the long haul. And I think that might be why a lot of men kill themselves. Like they just can't deal with all of the stuff that they put away in boxes.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, I do want to say that the word work-life harmony is, I think, what is kind of the buzzword now. It's like we're not really supposed to just separate our lives and having them in boxes. That's part of emotional intelligence at work, is actually caring about people. And you can't only just care about their productivity.
Yeah.
That is not that's like, and even, okay, so then let's take it over to the health field. We've also got this crisis in healthcare where if our physicians only care about the physical cellular level of people, they're really not going to be an effective or good physician, because they have to look at the whole person, at least in my opinion. That brings.
And I would go to one more step, if I may, Beverly. It's not only that the doctor needs to make sure the patient is okay, but what is the point of treating? This is a really tough thing to say. What is the point of treating and curing a man from prostate cancer if you leave him divorced or with a dead wife who's killed herself? Because there are women that are suicidal because of their husband's prostate cancer, and they have no idea what's going on. They try to do the research, they try to figure it out, they try to go to appointments with their husbands, and they can't. It's a HIPAA thing. The man has closed them out. So if you've saved the man but ruined his life, or maybe his family's left, people do not like to be around these guys for this androgen deprivation therapy. It's tough. So I think you go a step further. It's not just the cellular level, it's the humanistic level, but also, where is that person? How does that person fit in to their family unit? How does that family unit fit into their work unit? All of that has to be managed, and we're bad at that in this country.
Yes, you are exactly right. And we could take that problem that you just described and apply it to almost any industry. We've tried to separate and dehumanize. That's what you said. And by the way, I did read your book, and I have to ask you to share what you did right before we went live, where I said, let's talk about work-life harmony. And you said, I'm purple. Tell us what you said about that.
That's so sweet, Bev. That's thank you for reading it. It's very, very humbling, and it's very complimentary when somebody says they read your book and they actually liked it. Usually people say they like it. There were some versions that I had prior that weren't the greatest, and some people didn't like them, but I feel like what I've produced is true and honest and uplifting, and it teaches lessons. And I just wanted to share my story, because I think if I can just help one person, show a little empathy and maybe do a little bit better, it's worth it.
Yes. So how did you end up purple and not pink or blue?
So I am a pink person. I love pink. I love Barbie pink. I made my book pink because I knew that I was right in that feminist wave of Barbie last summer. And, my final chapter is an homage to Barbie. I think pink is a beautiful color that represents female power. And I'm a marketer. I would have been a fool not to make my book pink. They don't trademark the hex code. So I created my cover very pink. That was from the original intention when I first left Fort Lauderdale after the 30-day journey. I already had my book cover designed because I thought it was publishing the next week. It didn't happen, but that's another story. So my favorite color is blue, and blue is SJM Consulting Services, and that is my company that I help people fix their culture. So I am not the type of person that's going to complain about something. I was raised better than that. I'm going to complain, and then I'm going to give you a solution. So my book does this is the issue that happened. This is the studies that have been done about that issue. And here's how you can implement them into your workplace, Mr. CEO or, Mr. HR manager. And that's really what my book is designed to do. And I think it reads as kind of a novelette and a memoir. And it also kind of is as a workplace culture book. So there's kind of this craziness going on. And, that's part of being a first-time author, I'm sure. But I hope that, you kind of get that. But my company is blue. It's 3 shades of blue. The dark blue is my darkest shade, and my pink. And I have a gradient background because I believe that purple is where we should all be. We should always recognize that people are not home life and they're not work life. They're somewhere in the middle all the time. And everyone you meet is dealing with something right now. Be kinder than you have to be.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely, yes. And I think it's interesting that you have pink and I have on blue today, and together we're going to make it purple.
Love
because
it.
So what happened with this cancer journey, actually, with my husband and my work, I really never really talked about it during that process, at least not within the work context, because I was trying to, maintain my full commitments work-wise. And interestingly enough, then last year I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Mm-hmm. So here we are talking about these personal things. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to talk about my breasts to people I don't know.
We all got them. We all got them. And that's the thing. There's this book. I don't know if your kids read it. It's called Everybody Poops. And it kind of just lays it out there. Like, everybody's got to do this. Just be okay with it. And that's why doctors are so blasé. Like OBGYN doctors are like, okay, they just don't care. It's just anatomy and it's what we have to deal with. So.
Right. So I had to deal with this, but it was interesting because I actually got the phone call. We had moved to Georgia 2 years ago, not even quite 2 years ago. I joke about it. I've lived in Florida all my life. I was born in Florida, went to school in Florida, had all my babies in Florida, raised my family in Florida. But what changed it for me, and this is all I'll say about that, was 2018. When Hurricane Michael hit Panama City. And, the long story short, we lost our house. Insurance paid $0. That is still an open chapter 6 years later.
I'm so sorry.
I know, it's just crazy. So we said, we're going to higher grounds. We live on a mountain now.
I see the pretty mountains out your window. That's amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. I feel like I'm in a tree house up here. So anyway, last year I was on my way to Florida for a work trip when I got the phone call, and my physician said, it's malignant. You've got an appointment with the surgeon tomorrow. So you need to be in this office tomorrow. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. So I didn't change my schedule. I thought, I am a research nerd. Okay. I think we probably share that too.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, so this is not my first rodeo. My husband has already been through this. I was his health advocate. In fact, you would probably say this too, Shannon. And I've told many people he's alive because he had me as an advocate.
Exactly.
No, he had God as an advocate, but I helped.
Exactly. I know. I did it for my husband. You read about it. It's just.
Yes.
It's just what we do when we love these guys.
Yes.
We have to fight for them sometimes. And sometimes that looks like tough love. And that's okay.
Yes. Yes. So I had been through this and I thought, okay, so I know how to be my own advocate, and I'm not just going to fall into the system and do whatever they say to do. I want to know why. I want to know how. I want to know when. I want to be in charge. I don't want this to hijack my life because I just felt more angry at the diagnosis I felt more anger than fear. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, I'm in charge here. And so it was a different journey than most. And I will summarize it by saying I did set a goal that I wasn't going to sacrifice my work life. I love my work. I had worked hard for all of the bookings and commitments that I had and the speaking things. And it wasn't just that they were relying on me and needed me. I needed them and my work as much as I needed that. And I don't think that's unhealthy. I think I decided that as long as I was in charge of my schedule, So I did a lot of things differently. And that was one thing I did. I did not tell the people that are my clients while I was going through it. And I felt like, and this is just a personal way of how I deal with stress. I know you talk about your friends and your mermaids, and I have those. I think I had a list. I literally had a yellow legal pad with my whole team on it. People that I kept informed, that I relied on their prayers, I relied on their support, I relied on their shoulders to lean on when I needed to cry. I relied on them to speak the truth and love to me when I was getting out of line. So I had that team. But I really like to, when I go through something hard, and there's been a lot of hard in the last number of years, I like to have a team. And then I don't want to show my bleeding wounds to people that I don't know well. I feel like I can show them my scars like now they're not going to tell me that I'm a victor over breast cancer for 5 years, but I know what the blood work is. I know what the tests say. And I just had all the scans, all the blood work last week. And I'm so grateful, but I'm also a mystery to them because I still haven't done the standard protocol. They call it standard of care. I have not cooperated. And so they don't really understand how everything can be normal when I haven't done it their way. But I have a holistic nutritionist, in fact, who's in Panama City. I've got all kinds of alternative protocols that I've done from day one. And, we don't have time to talk about all that stuff today, but I think my main lesson from all of this, I'm with you, and then I want to give people hope. And I want to say that there's a way through. I wanted to go over it, around it. I didn't want to go through it, but I didn't get to choose that. I had to go through it, but you can maintain peace in the midst of chaotic circumstances. Peace to me is not the absence of conflict in life, because we'll never have that. So peace is being able to anchor yourself to the truly important things in your life and anchor yourself to an outlook where you have hope for the future. I've been signing my emails for 10 years. The best is yet to come, because I believe it. I absolutely believe it. And I have to just say that I did write a book called, I wrote this about 10 years ago, Win from Within, The Heart of Success and Significance. And the reason I mention it now is because this is about core values. Now, see, I am anchored in faith, as and everybody's got different faith. And I don't try, I'm not trying to say you need to believe the way I believe to have a successful outcome. But I knew what my anchors were going into a battle. And therefore, I didn't have to become just tossed by the waves, because that's tough. And we've seen it. I've been there, done that. I mean, I've walked through a lot of stuff. So now I look at age as a gift.
Yeah.
That it's like now I have a perspective and a lens that's better than it was when I was 21.
Yeah. I hear you. I know. That's a beautiful cover too. I can't wait to read your book, Core Values. That is a beautiful story. And I think that if you could send me some of your things that you've done in your cancer journey to get past the cancer without these traditional treatments that are sometimes worse than the cancer themselves. I'd love to share those with our viewers. So I will make sure to plug those in. If you won't mind sending those to me, I'll put those in the YouTube link, just
perfect
resources. So how can people get a hold of you now, Beverly, if they want to work with you at a corporate level? What kind of clients are you taking, or are you taking clients currently?
I'm taking clients, and interestingly enough, one of my main clients are county organizations. And some people say, well, you don't get rich teaching on the county level. And I don't. However, I love it. And the reason I love it is because I work with different counties in Florida and Georgia primarily right now, because I can do Zoom training. Obviously, we went through the whole COVID thing, doing Zoom, and I love in person. I love that connection with people. And one of the reasons I love working with counties and organizations like that so much, it's not about the big money. It's about developing relationships, because that's what I teach. And so
Cool.
like when I work with leadership development programs, I get to know the people within those programs, and I go back, and it's beautiful. So, but I work with small companies. I've got law firms, I've got medical offices. Those are some of the clients that I have right now. And you can reach me at beverlyspeaks.com. And it's Beverly speaks.com. That's my website. And I do have I have a podcast called The High Road to Leadership. My whole thing is, I believe that everything from families to communities to states to our nation, everything rises and falls on leadership. And we desperately need leaders who have integrity and kindness and compassion and are not just about themselves. Get over yourself. It's not about you. That's what I tell myself all the time, and you're allowed to overhear.
Oh, I love that. And I can't imagine ending on a better note. So, Beverly, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation and just a blessing to finally meet you. And I know that our viewers are going to get a ton of greatness out of this. So thank you, friend. I appreciate you. Namaste.
My pleasure.